We also welcome Mrs. Malimat, who is present amongst us. Warm welcome to you, ma'am. Once again, I would request all our guests who are standing at the entrance to kindly keep the entrance passage clear. आप सभी से निवेदन है, कृपया निकास द्वार को खाली रखें. Ladies and gentlemen, once again, a very warm welcome to the first Justice J.S. Verma Memorial Lecture. I would request everybody to be seated. We are now going to present a short documentary on the illustrious life of Honorable Justice J.S. Verma ji, which is being curated and presented by Justice Verma's daughter, Ms. Shubhra Verma. Presenting before you a documentary on Justice Verma.
When judges retire in India, they disappear from the radar screen. One or two may write books, a few may take to arbitration, others may give legal advice, but that's about it. My guest today is very different. He has strong views on the function.
Can we run the documentary, please?
When judges retire in India, they disappear from the radar screen. One or two may write books, a few may take to arbitration, others may give legal advice, but that's about it. My guest today is very different. He has strong views on the functioning of the judiciary and a well-thought-out critique about what's gone wrong with public life in India.
Long years back, a distinguished Chief Justice was asked, how do you choose your judges? He gave an answer which I think indicates the most appropriate yardstick. He said, I look for a good man. If in addition he knows some law, that is better, which focuses attention on the two prime requirements about the suitability of a judge. He should be a good man, and he should remember that law is the instrument for doing justice. And I would like to integrate the thoughts of great men. You see, Rajendra Prasad said, the worth of the Constitution will depend on the worth of the men who work it. Gandhiji said that there is a higher court than all courts of justice, that is the court of the conscience. Now it is that which determines whether you are a good man or not. I think a renaissance of values is what we need, and I am sure it will happen.
Just as you ignore the women, you ignore half the population. And if you ignore half the population, what is the progress you are talking about? Mahbubul Haq, I mean, in that very phrase I am very fond of quoting, he said, human development, unless engendered, is fatally endangered.
Well, I have tremendous faith in the youth for its idealism and caliber. And I think the only service we can render at this stage, I'm glad you said old man, because all of us old men, the only thing we can do is to try to inspire and motivate our youth, which has far better caliber than what we had at that age.
The spontaneous response of the youth and the peaceful protest, with no one knowing who is the other person sitting by his side, all of them coming of their own, and to voice their protest in a peaceful manner and not reacting even when there was provocation. well reminded me. I said, Gandhiji's soul must be resting in peace now, seeing that this is the India which is thought of.
Progressive nature of this report, the fact that for the first time transgenders and homosexuals are also included in this, I mean, that really is revolutionary in Indian jurisprudence so far that you put that out there so clearly. Why did you stress that that was so important?
Because that is a reality, and it is not wise to turn a blind eye towards reality. Now, that is also, unless you say that they are not humans. If they are humans, then you see how can you exclude any category of human from the claim or right to equality. The entire human race is one family.
Justice Verma, your granddaughter, it must be a proud moment for you as a grandfather to have her as part of this team.
Well, that helped me to know her more and how much she has grown, you see, over the years. And that was a bonus in a way. I'm not only she, but all the entire team. I mean, you're giving credit to us, but I want to give credit to those who appeared before us. You see, it was a very humbling experience to find that all the leaders of the women's group, that they were also persons who had been hit by lathis. Don't have any occasion to hide my age. I was 80 in the middle of this exercise, and somehow, I mean, the people came to know, and those gracious ladies, and the concluding session when we rose, I mean, they mentioned it publicly. Whatever little typing I was required to do when I was not there at home, well, it's good to learn.
You typed with one finger, I hear, but your speed was not bad. So you were typing yourself.
So what? That's what.
So what is your take on the journalistic intellectual caliber actually that is under the question? What should be done?
Well, I think everyone knows more than what I do. I have a duty to speak, particularly when asked, but I keep talking very often, even without being asked.
One case that made you proud?
Well, it's very difficult to say, but then you see, a case which, as you rightly said some time back, that no one was punished in that Hawala case. But then that is something which instilled fear in the minds of the people at the highest level, that they could not be, that you see, they could be caught for doing a wrong thing. So far as change is concerned, if only one thing could be done, and if somehow I could do it, well, and I was given the opportunity to do only one thing, I would do this: ensure that the top man in every institution is a person who has no past to hide, so that he cannot be blackmailed by anyone, and he is totally transparent, and he is not looking for a future, so that there is no allurement.
Just as small drops of rainwater unite to form the rain and give us the monsoon, we need the monsoon of purity, of national character. Let us have that, and everything will be all right. The judiciary, politics, economics, administration.
Vice President of India has arrived, would be joining us on stage any moment now. Once again, no more movement inside the hall, please. May I now request for all the exit doors to be closed? All the exit doors to be closed. And ladies and gentlemen, I have an announcement. In case you are using your mobile phones to take pictures, kindly keep your flashlights off. No flashlights should be on during taking pictures during the event. Thank you. And the exit doors to be closed. All exit doors to be closed now. Ladies and gentlemen, once again requesting for no more movement inside the hall, please. Everybody to take their seats. Ladies and gentlemen, as soon as His Excellency, the Honorable Vice President of India, arrives on the stage, we would request all of you to kindly rise for the national anthem at that time. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, His Excellency has arrived at the venue, would be joining us any moment now. I would request for order inside the hall. Thank you. All exit doors to be closed. And ladies and gentlemen, please welcome our honorable dignitaries on the stage, please. We would request you to kindly put your hands together to welcome all our distinguished dignitaries. And ladies and gentlemen, please welcome His Excellency Shri Jagdeep Dhankhar ji, the Honorable Vice President of India. And may I request everybody to kindly rise for the national anthem. Kindly take your seats. Namaskar and good morning. Honorable Chief Guest, His Excellency Shri Jagdeep Dhankhar ji, the Honorable Vice President of India, His Excellency Shri Mangubhai Patel ji, Honorable Governor of Madhya Pradesh, Guest of Honor Shri Shivraj Singh Chauhan ji, Honorable Chief Minister of Madhya Pradesh, Honorable Justice Sanjay Kishan Kaul, Honorable Judge, Supreme Court of India. Presiding over, Honorable Justice J.K. Maheshwari, Honorable Judge, Supreme Court of India. Guest of Honor, Honorable Justice Ravi Malimadji, Honorable Chief Justice of Madhya Pradesh High Court. Eminent dignitaries on the dais, Honorable Judges, special invitees, distinguished members of the Bar Council of India, State Bar Council of Madhya Pradesh, and Bar Association of Jabalpur, respected members of the press and media, ladies and gentlemen. I have the proud privilege today in welcoming you all to the first Justice J.S. Verma Memorial Lecture, presented by Justice Verma Memorial Committee in collaboration with Bar Council of India, State Bar Council of Madhya Pradesh, and Bar Association of Jabalpur, which is being organized by Shri Vivek Tankhaji, Chairman Justice Verma Memorial Committee, Senior Advocate and Honorable Member of Parliament, Rajya Sabha, in collaboration with Shri Manan Kumar Mishra, Senior Advocate, Chairman, Bar Council of India, Shri S. Prabhakaran, Senior Advocate, Vice Chairman, Bar Council of India, and Shri Vijay Chaudhary, Chairman, State Bar Council of Madhya Pradesh. Ladies and gentlemen, Justice J.S. Verma, an example of an exceptional career, who retired as the 27th Chief Justice of India in the year 1998, was the architect of a report that became instrumental in shaping a new, stronger anti-rape law in the country. Justice Verma also served as the Chief of the National Human Rights Commission and was the first head of the News Broadcasting Standards Authority. And today, to pay homage to the great personality who was a legacy of fearlessness, we are privileged to have the honorable presence of such eminent dignitaries. And I would now like to request Shri Vivek Dhankhar, Chairman Justice Verma Memorial Committee, to kindly do the honors of welcoming and felicitating our honorable chief guest, His Excellency Shri Jagdeep Dhankhar ji, the Honorable Vice President of India. A very warm welcome to you, sir. Thank you, Mr. Dhankhar, for doing the honors. I would now invite Advocate R.K. Singh Saini, President, District Advocates Bar Association, to kindly welcome His Excellency Shri Mangubhai Patel, the Honorable Governor of Madhya Pradesh. A very warm welcome to Your Excellency. I would invite Advocate Varun Dhankhar to do the honors of welcoming Shri Shivraj Singh Chauhan ji, the Honorable Chief Minister of Madhya Pradesh. We welcome the Honorable Chief Minister of Madhya Pradesh. I would now request Advocate Sanjay Verma, President, High Court Bar Association, to welcome Honorable Justice Sanjay Kishan Kaul ji, Honorable Judge, Supreme Court of India. A very warm welcome to Your Excellency. I would now invite Advocate Manoj Sharma, President of High Court Advocates Bar Association, to welcome Honorable Justice J.K. Maheshwari, Honorable Judge, Supreme Court of India. A very warm welcome to you. And may I now invite Advocate Shreyas Dharmadhikari to welcome Honorable Justice Ravi Malimadji, Honorable Chief Justice of Madhya Pradesh High Court. A very warm welcome to you. And now, ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of the city of Jabalpur, I have the privilege in inviting Shri Jagat Bahadur Anuji, Mayor of Jabalpur, to kindly do the honors of presenting a coffee table book on Jabalpur and a book on judicial history and courts of Madhya Pradesh to our Honorable Chief Guest, His Excellency Shri Jagdeep Dhankhar ji, the Honorable Vice President of India. जुडिशल हिस्ट्री एंड कोर्ट्स ऑफ मध्य प्रदेश मूलतः व्यापक इतिहास के साहित्य में मील का पत्थर है एवं 100 से अधिक विशेषज्ञों के श्रम एवं न्यायाधीशों के मार्गदर्शन से तैयार एक अद्भुत ग्रंथ है. We now present to His Excellency Shri Mangubhai Patel, Honorable Governor of Madhya Pradesh. We now felicitate Honorable Chief Minister of Madhya Pradesh, Shri Shivraj Singh Chauhan ji. We now like to honor and felicitate Honorable Judge Supreme Court, Justice Sanjay Kishan Kaul ji. We now felicitate and honor Honorable Judge Supreme Court, Honorable Justice J.K. Maheshwari ji. We now honor and felicitate Honorable Chief Justice of Madhya Pradesh High Court, Honorable Justice Ravi Malimat ji. We thank the Mayor for doing the honors. Thank you very much indeed, sir. And ladies and gentlemen, as is customary, we begin an auspicious occasion by lighting the ceremonial lamp and invoking the gods and goddesses and seeking their blessings. I now have the proud privilege in requesting the Honorable Vice President of India and eminent dignitaries on the dais to kindly do the honors of lighting the ceremonial lamp and formally inaugurating today's event. And ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together on the ceremonial inauguration of the first Justice J.S. Verma Memorial Lecture. And ladies and gentlemen, it is said that the diya when lit symbolizes the sharing of energy. Each wing being lit is sharing and transforming of knowledge. We would thank our Honorable Vice President of India and our eminent dignitaries for doing the honors of formally inaugurating today's event. Thank you very much indeed, Your Excellency. Ladies and gentlemen, Shri Vivek Dhankhar, the Honorable Member of Parliament, Rajya Sabha from Jabalpur, is not only a renowned lawyer and a political leader, but is also a commendable social activist and is a true believer in the democracy and the judiciary system. One of the youngest advocate generals of Madhya Pradesh, was also the first lawyer from Madhya Pradesh to have been appointed Additional Solicitor General of India, has always worked towards providing for the underprivileged and strives to build better infrastructure for Madhya Pradesh. Shri Vivek Dhankhar ji is Chairman of Justice Dhankhar Memorial Rotary Institute for Special Children, and Justice Dhankhar Memorial Trust helped establish and run schools in central India which are dedicated to the upliftment of specially able children. And I now have the proud privilege in inviting Shri Vivek Dhankhar to kindly propose the welcome address and share his thoughts on the purpose today. Let's put our hands together to welcome him.
It's a lazy Sunday morning. जब वाइस प्रेसिडेंट साहब ने मुझे बोला कि मैं 10:30 बजे आऊँगा, तो मैंने उनसे कहा सर संडे है, वकील लोग को यहाँ लाना बहुत डिफिकल्ट होता है, मगर आज देखिए आप लोगों का जादू, खाली ये हॉल नहीं भरा है, पीछे जो होटल है वो भी भरा है, वहाँ लाइव स्क्रीनिंग चल रही है। पूरा मध्य प्रदेश में बार एसोसिएशंस एंड लॉ कॉलेजेस में लाइव स्ट्रीमिंग हो रहा है इस प्रोग्राम की। और किसके लिए? जस्टिस जीएस वर्मा, द आइकॉनिक मैन ऑफ दिस प्लेस। सर 70 के दशक और 80 का दशक में वो मध्य प्रदेश के जज थे। हमको वो समय याद है जब जस्टिस वर्मा की परछाई से भी लोग डरते थे। वो इतने स्ट्रिक्ट थे और इतने मैन ऑफ सच रेक्टिट्यूड कि, और उनके फैसले उनके लिए बोलते थे। उनके फैसलों ने इस देश में जो इम्प्रिंट छोड़ी, जिसके बारे में आप लोग बताएंगे। बट लेट मी टॉक ऑफ द मैजिक ऑफ हिज एक्सेलेंसी द वाइस प्रेसिडेंट। He is not only our distinguished chief guest. It was very difficult at the bar, at least I found it very difficult, to surpass his arguments. वो इतने अच्छे तर्क रखते थे as a lawyer that it was very difficult to surpass him. He was a very effective leader of the bar. I think he was also president of the Bar Association in Rajasthan. A very effective parliamentarian. And a governor who had a constitutional presence. Sir, we wish you a very distinguished tenure as a vice president and a scholarly presence as chairman of Rajya Sabha, sir. Incidentally, ये Bar Association के function में, this is the second time a vice president of India has come. 1970 or 71 में, when my father was the president of the bar, Sir Hari Singh Gaur की statue, portrait had to be unveiled. And उस वक्त गोपाल स्वरूप पाठक साहब, who used to be his senior in Allahabad, he had come to unveil in a function of the Bar Association. And today, I have the privilege as his son to invite the Vice President to come and deliver Justice Dhankhar Verma Memorial Lecture. हमारे गवर्नर साहब के बारे में मैं ये बोलना चाहूँगा, वो उनका नाम और काम दोनों संवेदनशील हैं। जो उनका इम्प्रिंट है ऑन द ट्राइबल्स के लिए जो काम करते हैं, और समाव हम लोग भी करते हैं, तो वी कनेक्ट वेल। एंड उनकी जो सोच है ट्राइबल्स के लिए, और जिस प्रकार से सिकल सेल के बारे में वो चिंतित हैं, ऐसा लगता है कि एक बहुत ही संवेदनशील गवर्नर हमारे बीच में है। सर, वी वेलकम यू सर। शिवराज जी हमारे चीफ मिनिस्टर हैं स्टेट के। मैं यही कह सकता हूं कि मैंने उनकी संवेदनशीलता देखी थी, जो 15 साल से हम राहत के मिशंस कर रहे हैं। उन राहत स्टैंड्स फॉर रोटरीज एक्टिव हैंड्स आर टचिंग। एंड उन मिशंस में जो हम 15 साल से कर रहे हैं, कम से कम 5 लाख मरीजों तक हम पहुंचे, 30 से 50,000 सर्जरीज एंड प्रोसीजर्स किए, और वो सब बिना शिवराज जी के हो नहीं सकते थे। पूरा स्टेट एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन हम लोगों को उस चीज़ के लिए सपोर्ट करता था। थैंक यू वेरी मच सर एंड वेलकम टू यू। जस्टिस संजय किशन कौल साहब, उनका ननिहाल भी मध्य प्रदेश में है और ससुराल भी मध्य प्रदेश में है। ननिहाल तो जबलपुर में है। 60 के दशक में 1958 के बाद अपने नाना नानी के पास हर दिसंबर में वो जबलपुर आते थे और बहुत अच्छे याद या संस्मरण है जबलपुर के जो वो आपको खुद बताएंगे, आई एम श्योर। He had a scholarly presence as a member of the bar in Delhi High Court. And I remember there was not a single election which he didn't contest in the Bar Association. मैं जब भी पता चला करता था, कभी वो सेक्रेटरी की लड़ाई है, कभी ट्रेजर बन रहे हैं, कभी बार काउंसिल का चुनाव, और जीतते थे. So he is not only a good lawyer, but also had a presence in the Bar Council and Bar Association. He left deep imprints in Delhi High Court, Punjab High Court, and जो चेन्नई हाई कोर्ट में उन्होंने जादू किया, from a situation where Chennai High Court didn't work, he made it a working institution. The whole nation recognizes him for that. जस्टिस कौल साहब, हम आपको वेलकम करते हैं जबलपुर में. जस्टिस जितेंद्र महेश्वरी जी तो हमारे हैं. I think by far the most popular judge in Madhya Pradesh today. आज जहां भी जाते हैं इनके लिए वकीलों की कतार लगी रहती है. He was a very good member of, very scholarly member of the bar, और बार काउंसिल का भी इलेक्शन लड़के जीतते थे ये. बल्कि जब मैं एडवोकेट जनरल था और ये बार काउंसिल का इलेक्शन जीत के आए थे, तो मैंने इनसे पूछा, मैंने कहा आप इतने अच्छे वकील हैं, बार काउंसिल के लिए आप ये टाइम कहाँ से निकाल लेते हैं? तो उन्होंने कहा नहीं, ये दोनों मेरे शौक हैं. Sir, we welcome you. We have a Chief Justice, Justice Ravi Malimat ji. इनकी एक सेंटेंस मुझे बहुत पसंद है. He says, there is nothing impossible in this world. And this is what he follows in his life. Everything that you think, when you are thinking well, आपकी सोच अच्छी है, आपके ऑब्जेक्टिव्स अच्छे हैं, तो आपका गोल दूर नहीं होता. सर, वी वेलकम यू सर. क्योंकि संस्मरण अभी आप दूसरों से सुनोगे, उसके पहले मैं सबको वेलकम करना चाहता हूं. सबसे पहले मैं जस्टिस जैन साहब को वेलकम करता हूं, चेयरमैन स्टेट ह्यूमन राइट्स कमीशन. जस्टिस लाहौटी जी को वेलकम करता हूं, जस्टिस पॉलो साहब, सभी हाई कोर्ट जजेस, फॉर्मर जजेस, सिटिंग जजेस, शील नागू साहब, सबको वेलकम करता हूं. और सबसे बड़ी बात, जो तमाम स्टूडेंट्स बैठे हैं यहाँ पर, अशोका होटल पे और पूरे प्रदेश में, और जो आपको सुन रहे हैं लॉ स्टूडेंट्स एंड लॉ टीचर्स, मैं उनको भी वेलकम करता हूं. I also welcome Mr. M.L. Jaiswal. I don't know कहाँ बैठे हैं. He is the only person in Jabalpur who was a classmate of Justice Verma. He is a senior advocate. ये दोनों इलाहाबाद यूनिवर्सिटी में एक ही कक्षा में एक साथ पढ़ते थे. एंड वर्मा जी इनको बहुत आदर सत्कार से देखा करते थे, मुझे आज भी याद है. बिफोर आई एंड, मैं एक वर्मा जी के बारे में एक संस्मरण बताना चाहूंगा, फिर बैठ जाऊंगा. वर्मा जी बहुत सख्त व्यक्ति थे. जूनियर्स उनसे कांपते थे. मैं बता रहा हूं 1979-80 की बात, जब मैं प्रोफेशन में आया. जीपी सिंह साहब, वर्मा जी, दो ऐसे व्यक्तित्व थे. एक दिन हमारे सीनियर पाठक साहब का केस उनके सामने चल रहा था. एक हमारे यहाँ प्रैक्टिस थी कि सुबह के वक्त हम 10-25 पे, जब 10-20 पे जब हाई कोर्ट पहुँचते थे, तो तमाम फाइलिंग के केसेस वो मुंशी सामने रखता था और मैं एज अ जूनियर दस्तखत करके फाइल कर देता था बिना पढ़े. एक उनमें से केस वर्मा जी की कोर्ट में पहुँच गया. तो पाठक साहब जब खड़े हुए तो कहते हैं पाठक साहब ऑल्सो वॉज द जज लेटर, कि मिस्टर पाठक, आई सी दैट योर जूनियर विवेक तनखा हैज साइंड दिस. Call him. मिस्टर विवेक तनखा कहीं दूसरे कोर्ट में बैठे थे, बहस कर रहे थे, बताएगा, दौड़ते हुए हम आए, 2 साल की प्रैक्टिस थी। ही सेड, मिस्टर तनखा, आप क्या देश बंधु चित्तरंजन दास से भी बड़े आदमी हो गए कि आपके पास टाइम नहीं है ऑफ रीडिंग व्हाट यू हैव फाइल्ड? यू सी द मिस्टेक्स दैट देयर आर इन दिस मेमो। अब मेरे पास तो कोई वर्ड्स भी नहीं थे, क्योंकि मैंने पढ़ा तो नहीं था, क्योंकि प्रैक्टिस ये थी कि दस्तखत करके फाइल कर दो। मैंने उस दिन अपने सीनियर से बोल दिया, सर आपका केस फाइल होगा या नहीं होगा, मैं तब तक दस्तखत नहीं करूंगा जब तक मैं उसको पढ़ नहीं लूंगा। और ये बात मैं हर जूनियर लॉयर्स को बोलता हूं और ये लॉ स्टूडेंट्स को बोलता हूं, जब भी कोई चीज फाइल करो, जब भी कोई चीज लिखो, पहले पढ़ो, क्योंकि उसमें क्या लिखा है कम से कम ये तो ज्ञान होना चाहिए। और आखिरी में मेरे मित्र राजीव शुक्ला जी सामने बैठे हैं, मैं राजीव से ये शुक्ला जी से बोलना चाहूंगा, आपने ग्वालियर के साथ बहुत अच्छा किया, इंदौर के साथ बहुत अच्छा किया, आप आईपीएल सब मैचेस कराते हो। हमारे जबलपुर के साथ आपने कभी वो इंसाफी नहीं की, बल्कि नाइंसाफी तो नहीं कहूँगा, जबलपुर को भी अपना लीजिए, जबलपुर में भी कुछ अच्छे मैचेस करा लीजिए। आज जबलपुर आप आए हैं। और यहाँ पर शुभ्रा वर्मा जी भी हैं, जस्टिस वर्मा की डॉटर, वो शिवराज जी बनाएंगे। शुभ्रा जी है, शुभ्रा जी जस्टिस वर्मा की डॉटर हैं, और ये पूरा इनिशिएटिव हम लोग ने इनके साथ मिलके लिया है, मैंने, मनन मिश्रा जी ने और सब ने। मैं शुभ्रा जी को भी और उनके पूरे परिवार को वेलकम करता हूँ। थैंक यू। जय हिंद।
Thank you very much indeed for those kind words of welcome and for sharing with us the purpose for today. And ladies and gentlemen, it's an honor that present here with us today is Honorable Justice Ravi Malimadji. The 26th Honorable Chief Justice of Madhya Pradesh High Court has served as the Acting Chief Justice of Himachal Pradesh High Court and Uttarakhand High Court, and Judge of Himachal Pradesh, Uttarakhand and Karnataka High Courts. Justice Malimat belongs to one of the most respected families of Karnataka and has always worked very effectively as the administrative judge of many districts. And ladies and gentlemen, I today have the proud privilege in inviting Honorable Justice Ravi Malimadji, the Chief Justice of Madhya Pradesh High Court, for his address. And ladies and gentlemen, we also have the privilege of welcoming Justice Menon and Justice Srivastava ji, sir. And over to you, sir.
His Excellency, Honorable Shri Jagdeep Dhankhar, Honorable Vice President of India, His Excellency Shri Mangubhai Patel, Honorable Governor of Madhya Pradesh, Honorable Shri Shivraj Singh Chauhan, Honorable Chief Minister of Madhya Pradesh, Honorable Justice Sanjay Kishan Kaul, Judge Supreme Court of India, Honorable Justice J.K. Maheshwari, Judge Supreme Court of India, my esteemed sister and brother judges, Honorable Justice Prakash Srivastava, Chief Justice High Court of Calcutta, Justice Rajendra Menon, Chairman, Armed Forces Tribunal, the distinguished invitees today, the Registrar General and other registrars of the High Court of Madhya Pradesh, the various judicial officers, Shri Vivek Dhankhar, Chairman, Justice J.S. Verma Memorial Committee and Member of Parliament, Rajya Sabha, Shri Vijay Chaudhary, Chairman, Madhya Pradesh State Bar Council, Shri Shashank Shekhar, former Advocate General of Madhya Pradesh and Secretary, Justice J.S. Verma Memorial Committee, senior advocates, other members of the bar, ladies and gentlemen. A very good morning to everyone. It is my pleasure to be present here today at the first Justice J.S. Verma Memorial Lecture in honor of the eminent jurist, Justice Jagdish Sharan Verma. Justice J.S. Verma was born on 18 January 1933 at Satna in Madhya Pradesh. he completed his schooling at Satna and undertook his further studies at Lucknow. He obtained his LLB degree from the Allahabad University. Justice Verma enrolled as an advocate in the August of 1959 at Madhya Pradesh. During his time as an advocate, he predominantly practiced civil, criminal, constitutional, taxation and revenue matters at the High Court of Madhya Pradesh. He was elevated as an additional judge of the High Court of Madhya Pradesh on 12 September 1972 and was designated a permanent judge on 2nd June 1973. Justice Verma was appointed as the acting Chief Justice of the High Court of Madhya Pradesh on 27th October 1985 and as the Chief Justice on 14th June 1986. Upon being transferred, he took oath as the Chief Justice of the High Court of Rajasthan on 1st September 1986. He was elevated to the Judge of the Supreme Court on 3rd June 1989. He was appointed as the 27th Chief Justice of India on 25th March 1997, which office he held until his retirement on 18 January 1998. Justice Verma heard many matters of significant importance during his tenure. To briefly touch upon some of them, in Nilabati Behra versus State of Orissa, the court upheld the right to seek monetary compensation for a violation of the fundamental right to life under Article 21 of the Constitution, while also stating that sovereign immunity could not be considered as a valid defense for such a violation. In S.R. Bommai versus Union of India, the scope of proclamation of emergency in Article 356 of the Constitution and that of judicial review of the President's rule was laid down by the court. In Vishaka versus State of Rajasthan, the court delved into matters of sexual harassment at the workplace for the first time and laid down guidelines for the safety of women at the workplace, popularly referred to as the Vishaka Guidelines. In T.N. Godavarman versus Union of India, the court took on the role of a conservationist of the protection of the forests. These are only but a few of the many notable judgments delivered by Justice Verma. Post his retirement, Justice Verma was appointed as the chairman of the National Human Rights Commission from 1st November 1999 until 17 January 2003. In the aftermath of the brutal gang rape at Delhi in the year 2012, Justice Verma was appointed as the chairman of the Committee for Reforms of Anti-Rape Legislations. The committee submitted a report in a record time of just a month of its commissioning. The Criminal Law Amendment Act of 2013 was promulgated upon taking into account the recommendations of the committee. Justice Verma passed away on 23rd April 2013. As we commemorate the life and work of Justice J.S. Verma today, the greatest learning that one can hope to imbibe from him is his commitment to uphold values that he believed in. He worked tirelessly to achieve the goals that he set and the causes that he espoused. The speedy preparation and submission of the Justice J.S. Verma Committee report is the latest testament to that. Justice J.S. Verma dedicated his life for the cause of justice. His work ethic served as an inspiration to many young advocates, and I do believe that I will continue to motivate many people in the days to come. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed. And ladies and gentlemen, the Honorable Chief Minister of Madhya Pradesh, Shri Shivraj Singh Chauhan ji, has always been committed to the welfare of the people of his state. And under his leadership, we saw increase in Madhya Pradesh economic growth and Madhya Pradesh becoming a power surplus state. और अब निवेदन करना चाहेंगे माननीय मुख्यमंत्री मध्य प्रदेश श्री शिवराज सिंह चौहान जी से कि वे सभा को संबोधित करते हुए कुछ शब्द कहें और जोरदार तालियों के साथ स्वागत श्री शिवराज सिंह चौहान जी।
जस्टिस जे.एस. वर्मा, जिनका नाम सुनते ही मध्य प्रदेश का सीना गर्व से चौड़ा हो जाता है और न्याय जगत गर्व से भर जाता है। सबसे पहले मैं उनके चरणों में प्रणाम करता हूं और आयोजकों को धन्यवाद देता हूं कि उनकी स्मृति में यह व्याख्यान माला रखी है। और इस कार्यक्रम में पधारे हुए भारत के सम्मानीय उपराष्ट्रपति, जो आपके परिवार से ही आते हैं, सुप्रीम कोर्ट के बहुत अच्छे अधिवक्ता रहे हैं, बहुत सहज हैं, सरल हैं, विनम्र हैं और मध्य प्रदेश में पहली बार आए हैं। मैं केवल अपनी ओर से नहीं, केवल आपकी ओर से नहीं, मध्य प्रदेश की 8.5 करोड़ जनता की ओर से मध्य प्रदेश की धरती पर उनका हृदय से स्वागत करता हूं, अभिनंदन करता हूं। और तालियां जरा मध्य प्रदेश वाली वजह थोड़ी, आपका हृदय से स्वागत। हमारे बीच उपस्थित मध्य प्रदेश के कर्मठ और यशस्वी राज्यपाल माननीय मंगू भाई पटेल जी, माननीय न्यायाधीश सुप्रीम कोर्ट श्री संजय किशन कौल जी, मध्य प्रदेश की धरती से ही जो आते हैं, माननीय न्यायाधीश सुप्रीम कोर्ट श्री जे.के. माहेश्वरी जी, मध्य प्रदेश हाई कोर्ट के मुख्य न्यायाधीश श्रीमान रवि मलिमथ जी, आदरणीय विवेक तनखा जी जो चेयरमैन है जस्टिस जे.एस. वर्मा मेमोरियल कमेटी के और राज्यसभा के सांसद, आदरणीय विजय चौधरी जी, शशांक शेखर जी, इस अवसर पर कई हस्तियां यहाँ उपस्थित हैं, आदरणीय श्रीवास्तव जी, मेनन जी सहित अनेकों ऐसे लोग हैं, उन सबको मैं प्रणाम करता हूँ। यहाँ उपस्थित है, मैं उनका भी अभिनंदन करता हूँ, उनका भी यहाँ स्वागत है। मित्रों, जस्टिस वर्मा, जैसा मैंने प्रारंभ में बताया, मध्य प्रदेश की धरती से आते थे। अब विवेक जी भी कह रहे थे, वो इतने सख्त और कठोर थे कि जूनियर उनके सामने थर थर कांपते थे, लेकिन अपने फैसलों से उन्होंने ऐसे उदाहरण प्रस्तुत किए जिसको ये देश कभी भूल नहीं सकता। पूरा देश, में केवल न्याय जगत की बात की, उनके कई फैसले ऐसे थे जिन्होंने ये स्थापित कर दिया कि रूल ऑफ लॉ, रूल बाय लॉ को कैसे फॉलो किया जाता है। मैं बहुत विस्तार में नहीं जाऊंगा, लेकिन 1997 में महिलाओं के गौरवपूर्ण जीवन जीने के लिए मौलिक अधिकार को सुरक्षित बनाने वाला उनका एक बड़ा फैसला विशाखा केस में आया था। आप सब लोग अच्छी तरह जानते हैं, विशाखा केस की सुनवाई के दौरान कामकाजी बहनों के यौन उत्पीड़न को रोकने के लिए उन्होंने जो गाइडलाइन बनाई, वो आज पूरे देश में विशाखा गाइडलाइन के रूप में लागू की गई है। इस गाइडलाइन के आधार पर भारत की संसद ने क्रिमिनल लॉ में कई आवश्यक संशोधन किए थे। मित्रों, आप मुझसे ज़्यादा जानते हैं, महिलाओं के हक में 2012 में उनकी कलम से जो अनुशंसाएं निकली, उसके लिए तो ये देश जस्टिस वर्मा का सदैव ऋणी रहेगा। जस्टिस वर्मा ने निर्भया कांड के कलंक को धोने और ऐसी घटनाएं आगे ना हो, इस दिशा में जो योगदान दिया है, उसे ये देश कभी भुला नहीं पाएगा। न्यायपालिका के क्षितिज के विस्तार में जस्टिस वर्मा जी का योगदान सदैव याद रखा जाएगा। 1912 में निर्भया कांड ने पूरे देश को झकझोर कर रख दिया था, और तकलीफ की बात यह है कि आज भी इस तरह की घटना कभी कभी देश में घटती रहती है। इसके बाद क्रिमिनल लॉ में संशोधन के लिए जस्टिस वर्मा जी की अध्यक्षता में एक पैनल का गठन किया गया था, जो कि वर्मा पैनल के नाम से जानी जाती है। इस पैनल द्वारा जो अनुशंसाएं की गई, उनको स्वीकार करते हुए केंद्र सरकार ने कानून में आवश्यक संशोधन किए थे और वे कुछ ऐसे संशोधन हैं जो भारतीय न्याय व्यवस्था में मील के पत्थर के रूप में जाने जाते हैं। इस संदर्भ में मैं केवल एक निवेदन, क्योंकि आज संयोग से न्यायपालिका भी है, विधायिका के भी कई मित्र यहाँ बैठे हुए हैं और कार्यपालिका के लोग भी कहीं ना कहीं भले कम संख्या में हो लेकिन आज यहाँ बैठे हुए हैं। सचमुच में हम सबके मन में एक बड़ी चिंता है। अभी अभी भोपाल में घटना घटी, आप लोगों ने पढ़ा होगा। छोटी सी बेटी 3 साल की आया बस में थी, बावजूद इसके ड्राइवर ने अनैतिक आचरण किया। अब कई बार जब ऐसी घटनाएं घटती है तो समझ में नहीं आता कि कदम और कैसे उठाए जाएं। मैं आपको बताते हुए दुखी हूं कि यौन उत्पीड़न की और विशेषकर मासूमों के साथ, बच्चों के साथ जो अनैतिक घटनाएं घटती है उनमें से 92% परिचितों के द्वारा और उनमें से कुछ रिश्तेदारों के द्वारा भी की जाती है। मध्य प्रदेश में हमने कानून बनाया, मध्य प्रदेश विधानसभा में शायद सबसे पहले मध्य प्रदेश ने किया था कि मासूम बेटियों के साथ जो दुराचार करेगा वो सीधे फांसी के फंदे पे लटका दिया जाए। इस तरह का एक मध्य प्रदेश की विधानसभा ने विधेयक पारित किया। सजा कई लोगों को हुई, सजा कई लोगों को हुई। मैं समझता हूँ लगभग 76 लोगों को त्वरित फैसले करते हुए, और कई फैसलों में तो कोई 62 दिन में, मतलब एक रिकॉर्ड टाइम में न्यायपालिका ने फैसले किए। लेकिन वास्तविक फांसी तो होते होते वर्षों लग जाते हैं। देखिए, जब तक इस तरह की घटनाओं में कठोर और कड़ी कार्रवाई नहीं होगी तब तक मुझे लगता है कि जिनका कोई चरित्र नहीं है, क्योंकि सज्जनों के लिए फूल से ज़्यादा कोमल रहें, लेकिन दुष्टों के लिए वज्र से ज़्यादा कैसे हो सकता है पूरा सिस्टम। और अंततः न्यायपालिका जिस पर देश का सबसे ज़्यादा भरोसा है। सचमुच में आज भी ये कहते हुए गर्व होता है कि आम आदमी आज भी आंख बंद करके किसी पर भरोसा करता है तो वो भारत की न्यायपालिका पर भरोसा करता है। उसको लगता है कि कोर्ट में मामला है मतलब न्याय होगा ही होगा। और इसलिए ऐसे कुछ प्रश्न हैं जिन पे हमको और गंभीरता से विचार करने की आवश्यकता है। और मुझे लगता है कि और तीनों, विशेषकर विधायिका को और न्यायपालिका को बैठ के सोचना चाहिए। मध्य प्रदेश में हमने एक व्यवस्था बनाई है कि इस तरह के जो अपराध हैं उनको चिन्हित अपराधों की श्रेणी में सम्मिलित करके और रिकॉर्ड समय में कैसे कठोर सजा दें, इसकी कोशिश भी करेंगे। हम लोग कुछ आउट ऑफ वे जाके भी कुछ करने की कोशिश करते हैं। दुष्कर्मी हैं, कहीं उसका अवैध निर्माण है तो उसको तोड़ दो, डरे तो, परेशान तो हो, इस तरह की चीज़ें भी करने की कोशिश करते हैं। लेकिन इस पर एक बार और गंभीरता से विचार करने की ज़रूरत है, क्योंकि समय की सीमा है। इसलिए अंत में विनम्रतापूर्वक एक निवेदन में और करना चाहता हूं, जिसकी तरफ अब न्यायपालिका सचमुच में ध्यान दे रही है। न्याय की भाषा मातृभाषा क्यों नहीं हो सकती, ये हम सबको गंभीरता से सोचना चाहिए। आज भी गांव का आदमी, आज भी मैं मध्य प्रदेश की बात कर रहा हूँ, 92% लोग यहाँ अंग्रेजी नहीं जानते। और जब वो विवेक जी अभी कह रहे थे कि जरा पढ़ के ही दस्तखत करना चाहिए, तो जो फैसला सुनता है बेचारा पढ़ ही नहीं सकता, उसको पता ही नहीं है, तो उसको वकील के पास या अंग्रेजी जानने वाले के पास ही जाना पड़ेगा। देश में बहुत गंभीरतापूर्वक इस पर विचार चल रहा है। और मैं 2 लोगों को प्रणाम करना चाहूँगा। एक श्रीमान अटल बिहारी वाजपेयी जी, जिन्हें संयुक्त राष्ट्र संघ में भी हिंदी में जाके सबसे पहले भाषण दिया था और भारत की मातृभाषा को प्रतिष्ठित किया। और दूसरे वर्तमान प्रधानमंत्री श्रीमान नरेंद्र मोदी जी, बिना किसी झिझक के दुनिया में कहीं भी जाए अपनी भाषा में बोलते हैं और सारे देश का सीना गर्व से फूल जाता है। तो मेरी प्रार्थना है कि अब समय आ गया है, न्याय की भाषा मातृभाषा हो, कर्नाटक में कन्नड़ हो, तमिलनाडु में तमिल हो, मध्य प्रदेश जैसे राज्यों में हमारी राजभाषा हिंदी हो, तो आम आदमी को बड़ी राहत मिलेगी। मध्य प्रदेश में एक फैसला हमने किया है, मेडिकल की पढ़ाई भी और इंजीनियरिंग की पढ़ाई भी इस साल से हिंदी में होगी। हिंदी समर्थ है, जब दुनिया के अलग अलग देश, अब जापान में अंग्रेजी में नहीं होती, जर्मनी में अंग्रेजी में नहीं होती, रूस में रसियन में नहीं होती, तो मध्य प्रदेश या भारत में मातृभाषा या हिंदी क्यों नहीं? इस पर आप जरूर विचार करें। एक बार मैं फिर जस्टिस जे.एस. वर्मा के चरणों में प्रणाम करते हुए, और इस कार्यक्रम में पधारे हुए हैं आप, इसलिए आप सबका स्वागत हृदय से करते हुए अपनी वाणी को विराम देता हूं। बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद, प्रणाम, नमस्कार।
माननीय मंत्री महोदय जी का हार्दिक धन्यवाद. And ladies and gentlemen, today's occasion is graced by Honorable Justice J.K. Maheshwari ji, was elevated as the Honorable Judge of Supreme Court of India on August 31st, 2021, was born in a small town of Jora, district Morena of Madhya Pradesh. His lordship was enrolled as an advocate with the State Bar Council of Madhya Pradesh in November 1985 and practiced in civil, criminal, constitutional, service and tax matters. Was appointed as the additional judge of the High Court of Madhya Pradesh on 25th November 2005 and on 25th November 2008 appointed as the permanent judge of the Honorable Court, and was part of various committees pertaining to betterment of administration High Court of Madhya Pradesh, and continued his good offices till 6th of October 2019. Was transferred as Honorable Chief Justice of Andhra Pradesh High Court and assumed office on 7th October 2019. His Lordship was the first Chief Justice of the newly established Andhra Pradesh High Court and was transferred as Chief Justice of High Court of Sikkim on 6th of January 2021. And ladies and gentlemen, I now have the privilege in inviting His Lordship for the presidential address. Please put your hands together to welcome him.
इस गरिमामय समारोह में उपस्थित माननीय राज्यपाल, माननीय उप वाइस प्रेसिडेंट महोदय, माननीय राज्यपाल महोदय, माननीय शिवराज सिंह जी, कौल साहब, चीफ जस्टिस मध्य प्रदेश, धनखा जी, इस मंच पर आसीन विभूतियाँ, ऑफ द डाइस मेरे भ्राता न्यायाधीश, रजिस्ट्री ऑफिसर्स, हमारे पॉलिटिकल राजनीतिक क्षेत्र की हस्तियाँ, एडमिनिस्ट्रेटिव ऑफिसर्स, सीनियर एडवोकेट्स, एडवोकेट फ्रेंड्स, स्टूडेंट्स, आज का जो लेक्चर है उसमें कुछ मेरे संस्मरण हैं, क्योंकि मेरी लाइफ की शुरुआत जब हुई थी वकालत की, तो मैं नवंबर 85 में जब एडवोकेट बना, मैं ग्वालियर काम करता था लाहौटी साहब के साथ। मेरी पहली अपीयरेंस जस्टिस जे.एस. वर्मा साहब की वजह से हुई। जस्टिस जे.एस. वर्मा साहब 2 जनवरी 86 को ग्वालियर गए और बेंच में वो बैठे तो हमारे सीनियर ने हमसे कहा कि मैं तो वर्मा साहब की बेंच में जाऊंगा आज और बाकी बेंचों में आप देखिए। तो मुझे याद आता है कि मेरी सबसे पहली अपीयरेंस उनकी वजह से और 2 जनवरी 86 को हुई। अगर वो नहीं आते तो इतनी जल्दी किसी जूनियर को अपीयरेंस का चांस हाई कोर्ट में नहीं मिलता। दूसरी बात मुझे जब याद आती है, पूरे वीक बैठे तो 2 दिन उन्होंने क्रिमिनल अपील्स को सुना। जब वो क्रिमिनल अपील में बैठे तो कई लोग ऐसे थे कि वहाँ पर एडवोकेट्स प्रेजेंट नहीं हुए, तो उन्होंने देखना शुरू किया कौन बैठा है और कौन नया लड़का बैठा है यहाँ। तो जज साहब वर्मा साहब इंग्लिश में सुनते थे, तो उन्होंने कहा इसकी इंग्लिश ठीक है, इसको खड़ा कर दो, ये ही इज़ द मैन, ही विल गो एंड ही विल आर्ग्यू द केस। एट 11 he assigned me one case, you come at 2:30, I will hear this case. I was shocked, क्रिमिनल साइड की अपील, मर्डर अपील, आपको बहस करने को मिल जाए। एनीवे, मैंने प्रिपेयर किया और जितना मुझसे बन सका उतनी मैंने उनके सामने बहस की। बट जब रिजल्ट आया तो रिजल्ट वही आया जो तनखा साहब ने कहा कि उसमें उन्होंने एक्विटल कर दिया. तो आई वॉज रिमेंबरिंग जस्टिस वर्मा सिंस देन. जब तनखा साहब और सुब्रा जी मेरे पास आए थे तो मैंने उनको एक अनुरोध किया कि शायद इससे अच्छा कार्य कोई नहीं हो सकता. जस्टिस वर्मा साहब आज 50 वर्ष 6 महीने हुए हैं उनको जब से वो जज बने थे, और तब आज पहली बार ये लेक्चर की शुरुआत हुई है. मैंने उनसे अनुरोध किया था कि कम से कम मध्य प्रदेश के 2-3 लोग ऐसे हैं जिनके नाम से आपको लेक्चर प्लीज़ कराइए, और जिससे इस फैटर्निटी को कम से कम प्रोत्साहन मिलेगा कि क्या हुआ. मैं आज के टॉपिक पर बहुत ब्रीफ में 1-2 बातें कहूँगा और कुछ जस्टिस वर्मा साहब की क्वालिटीज़, और उसके बाद मैं इसको विराम दूंगा. बेंजामिन फ्रैंकलिन की कुछ पंक्तियाँ हैं. आई विल कोट. इफ़ यू वुड नॉट बी फॉरगॉटन एज सून एज यू आर डेड एंड रॉटन, either write things worth reading or do things worth writing. This applies aptly to Justice Verma. I know Justice Verma used to go deliver lectures, and he was very fond of wherever he is going, how he can develop his society or legal fraternity. He was thinking all around for that issue. In one of his speech, when he was speaking in convocation of the Premier Law University, he said, I quote, "Remember that the legal fraternity has been at the vanguard of the freedom struggle and nation building. Therefore, the responsibility of improving the quality of the polity of the greater on the legal fraternity is more." This was his thought process. So, I can say his tenure was an embodiment of his words. He rendered judgments where nation's conscience, public interest, and principles of the constitutionalism and morality took precedence over anything else. An innovator with the judiciary, Justice Verma's judgment paved the way for expanding the horizon of the judicial intervention in the legitimate issues concerning the life, liberty of Indians. His courageous approach and integrity towards the institution was evidenced by the fact that in Supreme Court, when he was there, restatement of the values of the judicial life in a full court meeting of 7th May 1997 was adopted, and he was the first person who voluntarily given his all assets, and declaration was given. Lord Macmillan said, and I quote, "The ultimate justification of the law is to be found and can only be found in moral consideration, which we found in Justice Verma's working and his style." At this stage, I would have to say something which the Chief Minister of the state has said regarding offenses of the minor children. I would say prevention is very good, but we have to work for reformative, because the morals of the people has low down, and we have to do some activities, thereby their morals should come up, and all these activities can be stopped. I would like to refer, with respect to the topic of the today's, that what was the horizon of his working, how he expanded. I know Justice Kaul would elaborately say of all these things, because he is the main speaker on the topic, but I'm touching the points. One of the horizon was that what is the scope of the judicial review within the Supreme Court. As referred by previous speakers, one of the judgment of Sarojini Ramaswamy of Union of India that was not referred is one of the judgment in which they have said that even in the cases where the impeachment is there, scope of judicial review is always available. In addition, you know that the S.R. Mumbai's case is the example of that. The another horizon which he has developed is that is of the safety of the woman at a workplace. And as referred my previous speakers, that one of the judgment, Vishakha judgment, and the Vishakha's guideline on that. So now this is the horizon of development. He was protector of the personal liberty. I have seen during his hearing, though he was very hard in his working, but his heart was very soft, and that answers the issues and reflected in his judgments. Justice Verma said regarding character and moral, which I was discussing, national character molds the polity, and the national character depends on the individual rectitude. Individual is the unit of influence and the change of the society. All this concerted effort, which is one of today we are doing, this is one of all of our stakeholders to act upon, and we have to work accordingly. So far as Justice Verma's further contribution is concerned, when he was the Human Rights Chairman of the in India, he interpreted what is the meaning of the human right, first time. So this is one of the horizon, and the development of the human rights and all this has come thereafter. He interpreted what is the meaning of the human right, how it includes in the public health and social security as the rights of the individuals, which has been guaranteed in the Constitution of the India. He has also worked on the HIV and AIDS when he was the chairman of the Human Rights. Now, in addition, the horizon is not with respect to interpretation or only of the judgment. When he was made the member of the committee to recommend the procedural law and what should be adopted in the criminal side, you can understand the present all this criminal law with respect to the harassment of the woman, outraging of the modesty, acid attacks, human trafficking, collection of evidence, and sexual offenses, how it is to be done. All these recommendations are part of his functioning. In conclusion, I will say that no man is truly great, who is great only if in his lifetime the test of greatness is the page of history. And I convey my thanks to all the organizers of this committee that they have started the page of the history, and by way of starting such a lecture in the memory of Justice J.S. Verma. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed, sir, for that insightful, motivating presidential address. And ladies and gentlemen, it's an honor today that the memorial lecture is being presented by the Honorable Justice, Honorable Sanjay Kishan Kaulji, the Honorable Judge, Supreme Court of India. He hails from the distinguished Dattare Kauls of Srinagar, whose ancestry can reliably be traced back to over 500 years. His Lordship enrolled as an advocate with the Bar Council of Delhi on July 15th of the year 1982 and practiced law at the High Court of Delhi and Supreme Court of India. His Lordship was advocate on record of the Supreme Court of India from 1987 to 1999 and was designated as the senior advocate in December 1999, was appointed as the senior counsel for the Delhi High Court and the Delhi University, was on the senior panel of Union of India and served as the additional senior standing counsel for the DDA. Was elevated as the additional judge of High Court of Delhi on May 3, 2001, and was appointed as the permanent judge on May 2, 2003. Was appointed as the Chief Justice of Punjab and Haryana High Court on June 1, 2013, before being sworn in as the Chief Justice of the Madras High Court on July 26, 2014. His Lordship was appointed as a Judge of the Supreme Court of India on February 2, 2017. And ladies and gentlemen, may I now invite His Lordship for the memorial lecture. Please put your hands together to welcome.
His Excellency Shri Jagdeep Dhankhar ji, His Excellency Shri Mangubhai Patel, Shri Shivraj Singh Chauhan ji, Honorable Justice J.K. Maheshwari, my brother, Honorable Justice Ravi Malamat, Chief Justice, Mr. Vivek Dhankhar, Shashank Shekhar, Vijay Chaudhary, other members on the dais, Chief Justice Calcutta High Court, Justice Menon, many sitting and retired judges, other eminent citizens of Jabalpur, most importantly the teachers and the students of law, the teachers who will carve out these students for the future, and the young students who are tomorrow's future as lawyers and judges. Ladies and gentlemen, it's a great privilege to address this gathering, particularly as the occasion is about honoring and celebrating Justice J.S. Verma. A man of the utmost probity and intellect, he imbibed an innate sense of leadership, and he displayed a remarkable commitment to our constitutional ethos. He has been described very aptly as the nation's conscience keeper, and a luminary of the Indian judiciary. He is someone that I have always looked up to. His work continues to inspire us to restore our commitment to the rule of law and work in a manner that furthers the ideals of equality. I had suggested to Mr. Dhankhar that I speak on the topic, Justice J.S. Verma, Reimaginations of the Indian Judiciary. I say so because there is nothing constant in any system. You have to keep on innovating if you have to go on, otherwise you'll stagnate. And that's what Justice Verma did. Innovate in the legal space so that we get a better future tomorrow. The topic seemed natural enough considering the widespread social impact of Justice Verma's judgments and the judicial innovations introduced by him that we continue to rely on this date. I do not endeavor to present an appraisal of his contribution, as there is a multiplicity of writings on the subject already. Instead, I only want to contextualize some of his interventions, and I believe that is necessary to be able to present a more wholesome picture of how Justice Verma imagined our courts, our policy, and how the imagination furthered his commitment to justice, equality, and fraternity. I have always believed that our most effective judges are those who most confidently and comfortably straddle the exigencies of the present and the future. This is reflective of the inherent dynamism involved in the work of judges. First, judges must be very firmly rooted in the social milieu that they have emerged from and remain part of it. They must have an innate understanding of their contemporary realities. Second, they must be sensitive to the churn of social energies, to the new and upcoming ways of thinking that are likely to disrupt our present ways of functioning. I shall devote the rest of my address to the myriad ways in which Justice Verma was an exemplar of this dynamism. Justice Verma was one of those rare individuals whose impact went beyond the office he occupied and the times he lived in. His far-sighted contributions have proven to be a benchmark and a foundation upon which subsequent endeavors towards social justice have been launched from. His legacy persists with us to this date and enjoins us to work in ways that further our constitutional ideas. It would be apposite to begin with the most celebrated decision of them all, which is Vishaka versus State of Rajasthan. The petitioners in that case had approached the Supreme Court, claiming an increase in incidents of sexual harassment against women in workplaces across the country. They wanted the Supreme Court to be a forum which could highlight this issue, especially as it was felt that the state had been slow to respond on it. What followed is now well known. Justice Verma, speaking for the Supreme Court, evolved a set of guidelines for preventing and addressing sexual harassment in workplaces. The guidelines not only provided immediate succor for those who were vulnerable, but they also kick-started a lengthy and ongoing movement for a more comprehensive and inclusive set of guidelines for women in workplaces. The Sexual Harassment of Women at Workplaces Prevention, Prohibition and Redressal Act of 2013, which drew its lineage from the Vishaka guidelines, came to be passed more than a decade after this judgment. Vishaka is now aptly recognized as a symbol of judicial innovation. The Supreme Court boldly ventured into an arena where there was lacunas left by the legislature. Here, one must also make note of Justice Verma's judgment in Nilabati Behra versus State of Orissa, a case which concerned the custodial death of a young man due to injuries inflicted upon him by the police. The court held that contravention of fundamental freedoms could give rise to a claim in public law for monetary compensation, and that the court was empowered to grant the same under Article 32 of the Constitution. For me, these two judgments highlight the creativity, fearlessness, and farsightedness in Justice Verma's understanding of Indian polity in three important ways. First, the Vishaka and Nilabati Behra judgments underline Justice Verma's view of constitutionalism not as a static idea, but as a larger movement. Justice Verma recognized the revolutionary potential of the text of Article 14, 15, 19, and 21. He understood the historical necessity of constitution making. It was a way for people to feel connected to their past, to their homeland, and to each other. He knew that the Constitution as a document came into being not in a vacuum, but as a part of other revolutions in Europe, South America, and Africa. Vishaka is a realization that the role of the judiciary is not informed only by a nation's extant norms, but by the social current taking place across the world. Thus, in formulating the Vishaka guidelines, the court heavily referred to the various international conventions against sexual harassment that India was party to. By doing so, Justice Verma placed India at the confluence of global movements towards greater access to justice and equality. Today, as we reach 25th anniversary of Vishaka's judgment, it is important to take stock of the progress made and the ways to go. We must reflect upon the ways in which impact of Justice Verma's decision can be amplified. We must acknowledge that the movement for gender equality still has some ways to go. As we are aware, sexual harassment at workplace continues to be a prevailing problem. It behoves us to work towards improving the Vishaka framework in order to address the various contingencies of today's day and age. In this regard, I would like to take this opportunity to highlight a few areas where our collective energies can be directed. In the 25th year following Vishaka, the socio-economic profile of our country has changed in multiple ways. There have been further changes brought about by the COVID-19 pandemic. In that respect, we must endeavor to rework our definitions of workplaces where sexual harassment can be said to occur. For many professions today, work is no longer constrained by the four walls of a physical office. Gig economy workers at times are required to visit the homes of their clients or to be constantly on the move between multiple venues. These can leave employees vulnerable in situations where the employer may not be willing or able to protect them. There is also a separate set of challenges when employees work from home over virtual platforms. Have been incidents of sexual harassment through video calls. Thus, to meaningfully safeguard the rights enumerated by Vishaka, we must contemplate the foreseeable ways in which laws can protect workers in such scenarios. Even within our traditional understanding of a workplace, there is work to be done further. The purport of Vishaka's guideline. There are many insidious ways in which women are targeted, and when they are seen to be challenging the traditional gender norms imposed upon them, sexual discrimination becomes the tool by which social position of a woman is reinforced. Thus degrades the work environment of a woman, which was the original problem that Vishaka set out to address. The ambit of Vishaka's guideline can also be expanded to capture the variation in the experience by different groups of people. While women are most common targets, the phenomena of sexual harassment can victimize other people as well. Men who do not conform to traditional masculine norms, people from the LGBTQ community, and gender non-conforming individuals are also targeted. The social objective of Vishaka cannot be attained if there are gaps in legal protection that create vulnerability to sexual harassment amongst a section of workers. In this regard, it is notable that Justice Verma continues to be held in high esteem by the LGBTQ community in the country. As the head of the News Broadcasting Standard Authority, he took suo motu cognizance against a program of a TV channel called Gay Culture Rampant in Hyderabad. Justice Verma observed in the program merely carried a gratuitous depiction and reportage of homosexuality among men without any underlying serious message for the society, and it violated the right to privacy of individuals with the possible alternate sexual orientation, no longer considered taboo or criminal act, unquote. He also advocated for sexual assaults to be made gender neutral in his report on the amendment to the criminal law published on 23rd January 2013. Coming to the second impact of Vishaka, much like Nilabati Behra, reimagining the court as a broader public forum instead of a limited space for adjudication of disputes. This is also borne out from Justice Verma's introduction of continuing mandamus, an innovation that allows the judiciary to converse with other institutions and to be truly involved in the process of governance. Justice Verma understood the court's writ jurisdiction to be an open-ended outlet for groups that hitherto had no appropriate mechanism for redress. In this sense, he practiced Dr. Ambedkar's vision of constitutional morality, which sees in the Constitution not just a method to organize our political space, but as a source of a common language to be adopted by all citizens and institutions. This common language replaces outmoded mechanisms of social organization, such as rule by power, by one's wealth and social standing, and by exclusion. In this regard, I view Justice Verma was an active judge instead of an activist judge. Most of us all, he was deeply principled man. I am reminded of Justice Cardozo's quote that there is in each of us a stream of tendency, whether you choose to call it philosophy or not, which gives coherence and directions to thought and action. Judges cannot escape that current any more than other mortals. For Justice Verma, the current that he followed was his own principled commitment to constitutional morality. In a slight digression from my text, I would like to only delve shortly on what Chief Minister ji mentioned, which is about the problem of how women suffer on account of various societal norms and the violations in society. He mentioned an important aspect, which is that a large percentage of these violations come from within the house or with persons known. इसका solution क्या है? हर जने को आप टांग नहीं सकते हैं, ये possible नहीं है। और अगर ये possible नहीं है तो कहीं ना कहीं हमारी जो सोसाइटी है उसके मंथन में से कुछ न कुछ ऐसा निकलना पड़ेगा जिससे लोग समझें कि ये चीज़ क्यों गलत है। पर हमारी सोसाइटी अभी मंथन में ही है, चेंज होगा। बड़ी एंशंट सोसाइटी है, बड़ी वेरिड सोसाइटी है ये, और इसमें सिर्फ जेंडर बायस ही नहीं है, अत्याचार औरत और औरत के ऊपर भी होता है। तो सास भी कभी बहू थी मारा जाता है, क्यों नहीं होता है, क्या प्रॉब्लम है? उसको कहा जाता है कि ये एक मदर इन लॉ सिंड्रोम है। इट्स अ नॉर्मल कॉन्सेप्ट। मदर इन लॉ सिंड्रोम यह है कि जो औरत उसी हालात से गई है वो फिर नेक्स्ट जनरेशन के संग ऐसा क्यों करती है। ये उसी में नहीं, मैं और सोसाइटी के पार्ट से भी कहूँगा। जो कई सोसाइटी के पार्ट्स इफेक्ट हुए हैं, जो पीड़ित रहे हैं, जो इमर्ज कर रहे हैं, कई बार उनसे ही और लोगों की, उस कैटेगरी के लोगों की पीड़ा उत्पन्न होती है। तो ये एक सोसाइटी का मंथन है। कहीं ना कहीं 200 प्लस 600 800 साल के राज में हम लोगों की सोच इफेक्ट हुई थी। उस सोच को वापस आने में, उसकी एक इंडिपेंडेंट थॉट प्रोसेस को लाने में, उसको समझने में कि हम लोग एक बेटर सोसाइटी कैसे बना सकते हैं, इस पे डिबेट चलनी पड़ेगी। और डिसिप्लिन मेरी बिलीफ है एक इम्पॉर्टेंट पार्ट इसका है। जस्टिस वर्मा की लाइफ भी एक डिसिप्लिन का मोड था। एंड मैं समझता हूँ अगर सोसाइटी को रिफॉर्म करना है, और वर्ल्ड की सोसाइटीज़ को आप देखते हैं जहाँ प्रोग्रेस हुई है, तो एक सेल्फ डिसिप्लिन जब तक हर जने में नहीं आएगा वो बहुत ज़रूरी है। कभी कभी मैं लाइटर साइड पे कहता हूँ कि अंग्रेज़ों से 3 चीज़ सीखने की थी। हम लोगों ने सब कुछ सीखा, वो 3 चीज़ नहीं सीखी। उन 3 चीज़ में पहली ये है कि सिर्फ प्राइड इन द हाउस नहीं है, प्राइड इन स्ट्रीट, प्राइड इन टाउन, प्राउड इन कंट्री। ये बड़ी एक चीज़ है। दूसरी चीज़ था उनका सेंस ऑफ डिसिप्लिन, और तीसरा था सेंस ऑफ ह्यूमर। कहीं ना कहीं हम ये तीनों चीज़ खो के बाकी और चीज़ों को अपनी ज़िंदगी में इनकॉर्पोरेट कर लेते हैं, कहते हुए कि ये हमने इनहेरिट करा है ब्रिटिश से। कमिंग बैक टू द सब्जेक्ट, टू मी जस्टिस वर्मा's life is a testament to the pervasive power of principles. Constitutional morality encourages us to act in accordance with the principle instead of a strict doctrine. Principles guide our decision making, but unlike rules or dogmas, they are not open textured. They provide a direction which may have multiple paths. Principles celebrate the multiplicity of action and of being. We find that in today's heavily polarized world, there is less and less room for engagement. Instead of committing to orthodoxy of any nature, Justice Verma chose to repose his faith in more eternal principles of justice, equality, and constitutional morality. Third, it is important to highlight that Justice Verma's tenure in the Supreme Court lasted from 1989 to 1998. As we are aware, this was a highly tumultuous and exciting period for India as the country was in throes of economic liberalization. As economic considerations took over, Justice Verma's decisions recognized the dual character of globalization. Just as these forces would bring about an increase in opportunities and standards of living, they would also open up new ways of economic oppression. More and more women would be able to join the workforce, but there would be also need to safeguard against the oppression faced by them. At this critical juncture, the court was required to re-emphasize the state's role as the guardian of individual rights as enshrined in our constitution. I firmly believe that Vishaka and Nilabati Behra judgments are illustrative of this vision. In that sense, Justice Verma was the one who ushered the Supreme Court into a new millennium. It is his vision of the Supreme Court that redefined the role of the judiciary at the cusp of the 20th and 21st centuries. His work was forever reconfigured the role of judges as active participants in the project of good governance. Our country has had a storied tradition of judges contributing to public discourse beyond their position on the bench. Justice Verma also assumed a very proactive role in this regard. He headed the commission of inquiry set up to determine the nature of security lapses that led to the former Prime Minister Rajiv Gandhi's assassination in 1991. He submitted his report in June 1992. It was found that there were gaps in communication between the Intelligence Bureau and the central and state governments, and a dereliction of duty on part of the security agencies. True Justice Verma's nature, the report also carried a set of recommendations for the security infrastructure in the country. Justice Verma also gained further prominence and visibility as the bench of the Supreme Court, headed by him, was monitoring the infamous Jain Hawala case. This case had gained a public prominence after it threatened to expose deep-rooted nexus of corruption between politicians, businessmen, and investigative authorities. Justice Verma took this case up with his trademark crusading zeal. He forced the CBI to stop dragging its feet and to undertake rigorous steps for a detailed investigation of every single accused person in the case, irrespective of their political status. He even directed the CBI chief to attend every single hearing. He quoted Lord Denning in an order, observing that the Commissioner of Police, inverted commas, like every constable in the land, is answerable to the law and to the law alone, unquote. There was an expectation that the judiciary would stand up to the big wigs amongst the political and executive classes. In that process, Supreme Court became a symbol of hope for the common man, with the promise of an overall political cleansing and greater accountability. Justice Verma was deeply concerned with issues related to good governance and polity at large. He was never afraid to turn the mirror towards himself and his colleagues. For him, equity and justice could not be propagated until and unless they were first practiced. Justice Verma had powerfully declared that self-regulation was infinitely more desirable than external interventions. In one of his interviews, he had words of advice for the institution that was so dear to him. He said, "Let us ensure that our behavior is impeccable so that no one can say anything." Justice Verma also confidently followed through his words. After he took over Chief Justice of India, he passed a resolution called the Restatement of Values of Judicial Life, which was unanimously adopted by the full court for the Supreme Court on 7th of May 1977. The resolution contains a code of ethics and serves as a guide for all judges today. It comprises of intractable principles pertaining to the independence and integrity of judges. The restatement certainly endows judges with a sense of heavy and somber responsibility, but I believe that it also enhances the prestige of the institution and the legal practice as a whole. Justice Verma recognized that judiciary's objective of doing impartial and complete justice must begin with fairness in dealing of the judges themselves. It was not just our country that regarded Justice Verma as a proponent of judicial independence and fearlessness. He was designated by the Malaysian government as an eminent person to review the 1988 judicial crisis in Malaysia. Prime Minister Mahathir Mohamad had sacked the Lord President of Supreme Court along with 2 other judges, and this move put judicial independence in Malaysia under serious jeopardy. Justice Verma's report found that the sackings were unconstitutional. The report thereafter led to judicial reform process in Malaysia. Justice Verma's contribution thus led many significant afterlives both in India and abroad. It is fair to say that Justice Verma's interventions are now embedded in the fabric of our judicial system. However, I also believe that he would caution us not to take them for granted, to not treat them as articles of faith, but as markers of social progress. Justice Verma, in his interviews after his retirement, acknowledged that systems themselves would always be fallible, that they could only be as strong as the individuals who are part of them. In this context, I now wish to turn to another of Justice Verma's judgment, which now more popularly is known as the second judge's case. The judgment of this court in that case led to the creation of a collegium system as we know it today. The majority opinion in this case entrenched and formalized what they considered to be the prevailing practice of appointment of judges. Among other things, the collegium system has been criticized for creating a veil of secrecy around judicial appointments. For those outside the system, it can be hard to decipher the criteria for appointment and transfer of judges. I too have believed for a while that there is merit in this concern. And perhaps the time has come to revisit the issue. If we expect our citizens to repose their faith within the judiciary, we must promote greater transparency in the administration of our courts. No longer can we let the courts be viewed as self-enclosed citadels. Just as with our public institutions, we must work towards imagining a better system. Such a system should preferably take into account the diversity in the social philosophies, gender, and social background in the appointment of judges. I firmly believe that such a system can be contemplated while preserving the independence of the judiciary. Just as we apply our various thresholds of judicial review upon actions of public bodies, I believe that there is reason for the judiciary as an institution not to impose high standards upon its own functioning. The task may be monumental, but I believe that with sincerity and determination it can be achieved. For example, when it comes to question of elevation, we can develop some objective threshold criteria to evaluate the performance of judges. This can include an analysis of the time taken to reserve and pronounce judgments, the pendency in one docket. The raw number, of course, may not give the complete picture, but they can be useful starting points for our inquiry. These interventions can go a long way in enhancing the trust reposed by the citizenry in the judiciary. I would like to end with a quote from Cicero, which to me exemplifies Justice Verma's extraordinary commitment to our constitutional ethos. Quote, "Justice looks for no prize and no price. It is sought for itself and is at once the cause and meaning of all virtues." Unquote. Justice Verma will always remain a wellspring of moral influence upon our judicial institutions through his courage, integrity, and character. Thank you. Jai Hind.
Thank you very much indeed, sir, for that motivating memorial lecture. And ladies and gentlemen, we feel honored today with the esteemed presence of His Excellency Shri Jagdeep Dhankhar ji, the Honorable Vice President of India. The law fraternity present here today is indeed honored to have amongst us an eminent personality like Shri Jagdeep Dhankhar ji, a lawyer himself, was designated as a senior advocate with the High Court of Judicature for Rajasthan and was the most senior advocate of the state till taking oath as the governor in July 2019. And we are indeed grateful to you, sir, Your Excellency, for sparing your valuable time and gracing this occasion. I now have the proud privilege in inviting His Excellency for the inaugural address. Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together to welcome our Honorable Chief Guest, His Excellency, the Honorable Vice President of India.
My greetings to everyone present here. In the other hall, as indicated by Vivek, and everyone who is on virtual mode. Very, very good afternoon according to the watch. I am grateful to the Honorable Chief Minister, Shivraj Chauhan, because the day I took oath of office of Vice President of India, Honorable Chief Minister called me that after my home state, I must visit Madhya Pradesh. I have fulfilled the promise, and It was catalyzed by Subraji and Vivek. Honorable Governor of Madhya Pradesh, Sri Mangubhai Patel ji, Honorable Chief Minister of Madhya Pradesh, Shivraj Singh Ji Chauhan, Honorable Justice Sanjay Kishan Kaul, Judge of the Supreme Court, Honorable Justice J.K. Maheshwari ji, Judge Supreme Court, Honorable Justice Ravi Malimat, Chief Justice of Madhya Pradesh High Court, retired judges of this court, sitting judges of this court, Chief Justice, Calcutta High Court, Srivastava ji, Chairman AFT Manin sir, honorable members of Parliament, and I can tell you, if you find me somewhat low in spirit, it is on account of 3 members of Rajya Sabha being present here. Vivek, Rajiv Shukla, and Kartikeya Sharma. The session will start in November. I do hope they will get a lot of inspiration from erudite, scholarly address by Justice Kaul. But a big relief to me that Jabalpur MP, Rakesh Singh, a senior parliamentarian, he is present here and is in the Lok Sabha. Vivek Chaudhary ji, Chairman Bar Council, members of the Bar Council, senior advocates, members of the Bar, and distinguished audience. I need to congratulate Justice Kaul for rendering a memorable discourse on one of iconic personalities in our judicial system. His Lordship has vindicated in full authenticity his sublimity of approach to critical issues. I am beholden to him. I do not know for what reason when people talk rationally, it is said they are talking out of the box. I strongly support his thought process. His thought process emanates out of firm conviction and a great rationale. And this for me is take home from this very important occasion. His Lordship has traversed all facets pertaining to late Justice J.S. Verma. And I would not take your time on that. For 2 reasons. One, making a demand on your time is unreasonable. And secondly, I will not be able to measure up to his level. I'm extremely humbled at this opportunity and the kind words that have been said about me. I'm grateful. My wife is not here. And my son-in-law and daughter made their absence to see I am comfortable. But they would not agree. I would indicate some facets of Justice Verma for the reason that while he was Chief Justice of Rajasthan High Court from 86 to 89, I happened to be very young President of the Bar, around 36, and I was in the Bar Council. And the relationship between the Bar and the Chief Justice is not always very congenial, sir, for a variety of reasons. Because a very rational approach of judges normally does not go down well with the Bar. And the Honorable Chief Justice here has agreed, which is a very healthy, wholesome endorsement and energizing me. But I can tell you, that was the most difficult period of Rajasthan High Court. and Justice Verma, unforced, sublimity, transparency and accountability. His Lordship found a way out that original petitions will be handled by 2 judges. Something that was criticized, but within their hearts, every lawyer agreed that was the only solution at that point of time. For another good reason, I am beholden to late Justice J.S. Verma. I was arguing a case before him challenging Section 32 of the Evidence Act, that it is in violation, gross violation of Article 21. What a dying man had said can decide the fate of a living man. It was based, the challenge was based, premised on a report of a law commission in a European country. I was young, perhaps he was impressed, and in open court he said, would you like to be senior? And the bench was, sir, Justice Verma, Justice Kasliwal, Justice Suresh Agrawal, all came to the Supreme Court. My dear friends, I had no idea what a senior was. So I indicated to the Honorable Chief Justice, the Honorable Chief Justice may be indulgent to give me a day's time to ponder over. His response matched my community response. Then you don't deserve to be one. And promptly I responded, make me one right now. That is how I was designated a senior advocate. When the file moved, sir, it was through that process. The junior most judge happened to be a session judge in one of the districts. So he had serious reservation on my being designated as senior advocate. Serious. Because I had argued 2 appeals. His conviction, the conviction which he recorded was upset. The accused were acquitted. And Lordships of the High Court made some observations also. I had no role in that. But he felt bad at the observations. So after I was designated senior and Justice J.S. Verma was appointed as Judge of the Supreme Court, I also moved to the Supreme Court and the, what is they call, sir, Lieutenant Delhi, on being elected Member of Parliament. Then he revealed to me that he told the junior most judge, it is not the lawyer's fault ever. Judges have their own approach. So for this reason also, I am greatly beholden to the late man. But he will be remembered ever by the country and judicial fraternity for what he has done. His judgments have impacted society in an exceptional manner and well regarded. One of the judgments on which His Lordship Justice Cole has reflected at great depth, I would not dilate much on that except saying that in Visakhapatnam, a case originating from Rajasthan, he judicially structured the mechanism for adequately providing for specific protection to women from sexual harassment in workplace. I remember that judgment for a very different reason. And that particular premise is not in much limelight. And that, according to me, is the basis on which Justice Cole has just now made a very, very momentous reflection. And that was, in the judgment Justice Verma reflected, I quote, these directions would be binding and enforceable in law until suitable legislation is enacted to occupy the field and court. Look at his wisdom, knowledge. Look at his respect for constitutional institutions. He yielded to the expedient situation, found a solution and resolution through a judicial order, but did not permit the order to graduate to an incursion in the domain of legislature that alone has competence to frame law. This is an instance of scrupulous adherence to doctrine of separation of powers, which I can say contemporaneously is under some strain. Our Shastras say, Dharmo rakshati rakshitah. The law protects us if we preserve its sanctity. I find this nectar of democracy. I find it non-compromising. There is no way out except to adhere to it. Presently, we need to revisit the situation to see that this wholesome principle is practiced by all. Adherence to constitutional prescriptions by all institutions is not optional. If democracy has to function, constitution has to function, all institutions under the constitution are required to keep within their bounds. Democracy can be best nurtured. It can blossom. It can impart healthy impact societally and for welfare of the people if constitutional institutions are in sync with each other. They confine their actions to the limits set by the Constitution, and to serve the larger public interest, they are in sync with each other. Sir, I would indicate any transgression by any constitutional institution, howsoever refined, howsoever subtle, howsoever non-invasive, creates a ripple that becomes, unfortunately, a tsunami. We have seen recently innocent observation of the court. And mind you, courts, judges sit from 10:30 to 4 o'clock. An observation which is no more than a small ripple is put in high decibel by media and creating all kinds of situations that certainly can't be called as wholesome. I would therefore strongly urge and appeal, the time now has come when a fresh look be taken so that all institutions, legislature, executive and judiciary, confined to the role prescribed for them by the Constitution. This will be good for the institutions. This will be good for the country. This will help rule of law prevail rather than there being law by any one of these institutions or any other authority. I should not be misunderstood that I am focusing on one institution. All three institutions are on the same page. All three institutions, that is legislature and executive as also judiciary, have to think within. And I am sure those at the helm of affairs will bestow attention on this very critical aspect so that our country, which is on the rise, continues in their journey. Sir, I am addressing Justice Cole in particular after being enthused, motivated, inspired by your discourse. We are passing through a phase, sir, where secrets are always open secrets. A secret in the executive at any level, a secret in the judiciary at any level, a secret in another format is an open secret. And that open secret no one is prepared to discuss. That perhaps is travesty, I would say not of justice, but of our entire system. Gone are the times when things could be decided behind the curtain and nobody would ever come to know it. The very concept of declassification of documents after some decades is irrelevant today. I would therefore urge transparency and accountability are non-negotiable. It is a tough call. It will be very difficult for any one of us to assert there is adherence to the sublime, non-negotiable principled stand in higher echelons of authority and power. I recall I had a chance meeting with a celebrated judge of the US Supreme Court, who is no more, Justice Scalia, and had the occasion to go through one of his addresses in a university. And he was reflecting on power of judicial review. And he was reflecting that European courts have no idea the power of judicial review the American Supreme Court enjoys. I made an observation, sir. I'm picking up courage from your address. He was not aware about Indian Supreme Court. We have enormous power of judicial review. Time has come for us to think. US Supreme Court initially started with 8 judges. Quickly they learned the number should be odd. So they made it 9. Still there are 9. They don't sit in benches. They sit as one court. And they are happy with the number. When I became a minister in 89 to 91 period, I went to a place in Parliament House where first Federal Court used to sit and then Supreme Court used to sit. So I directed someone, let me know how could you accommodate the litigants and lawyers in this small room. Because in Supreme Court we now see we hardly have any space in the corridor, and my lord's roster would indicate what happens. And I was amazed to learn there were 8 judges initially, sir. They used to sit twice a day, twice a week, and for half day. And if we come across some of 8 judge bench decisions, it is during that period. Now, the thought process which has been slightly hinted by Justice Kaur, very slightly, in a subtle manner, needs to be taken further. At independence we were 36 crore, now we are 136. I strongly believe as a tribute to democratic essence and requirement, that will of the people expressed through their representatives, that is the Parliament, must occupy primacy. A legislation that emanates, the role is not confined only to members of Parliament. They are representatives. I would not at this moment venture into another area that very distinguished members of the Constituent Assembly debated and deliberated all aspects of Constitution. But the composition of the Constituent Assembly may have to be gone into. But I have no doubt I can say so. Presently, our Parliament is far more representative than at any time in its history. People are participating vigorously in the election process. Now, if the country of 136 crore people electing their representatives through a representative mechanism which is very transparent, globally acknowledged, it must have due weightage. That, sir, is my humble request. Because only a giant can raise the issue. We have one on the dais. At a time I am reflecting because it has come in media. His Lordship has always maintained restraint in court and outside. I have never seen him worked up. I have appeared before him on a number of occasions. And even if a judgment is reversed by the High Court, the composure was as it is. Sir, there must be something in you for the great nation, Bharat, that you could not help yourself but write that letter. I hope things are affirmatively catalyzed so that we come to a situation where respect for the people at large, and there is only one mechanism to do it, and that is through the representatives. I would not have departed from my script, and I would have confined totally to a different level. But as a citizen of this country, under oath of the Constitution, and inspired by a thought process indicated a while ago, I thought it will be unfair for me, my conscience will not permit it, that I do not lend a small strength to the thought process that has emanated a while ago. Sir, there is a requirement of a stock taking, and that is required. A spinally strong, fair, independent justice system is the safest guarantee for blossoming and flourishing of democratic values. And I can indicate to the Honorable Chief Minister, for the democracy, sir, it is, but sometimes judgments can be uncomfortable. And no one knows more than you, with your huge experience and commitment to help the people at large. And therefore, what you indicated, and which has been responded very rationally by Justice Kaur, if you conclude at the end of the day, you both are on the same page. And that is the strength when we think wholesomely for the nation and the country. No one should forget, none is above the law. Whatever background you may have, whatever position you may hold, the moment anyone thinks he is above the law, that is the greatest disrespect to rule of law and democratic values. People in high authority, wherever they are, need to remind themselves day in and day out that law is above them. And the only mechanism that enforces law is judiciary. So criticism that emanates for judges pains me terribly. For a simple reason, judges can't defend themselves in public domain. I was governor of West Bengal for 3 years. I've seen it myself. There has been a reflection by the former Chief Justice of India that swift action should be taken against those who take on judges, target individual judges, action was taken, but in isolation. Members of the bar and the media have to come forward to take cudgels with everyone concerned so that our judiciary, which evokes, I can say without, I think without fear of any contradiction, evokes instant public response. That is why a judicial commission evokes confidence, unlike a non-judicial commission. I am sure members of the bar, legal fraternity, and media in particular will become foot soldiers to defend the judges when they are targeted, and that will be their great service to the country at large. I will end by indicating that Justice Verma has laid a foundation by his work, action, judgments, and demeanor that can be role model for all young lawyers, all senior professionals, and members in the judiciary. I am grateful once again, first to the Honorable Chief Minister, because I had undertaken to him that outside my home state, the state of Madhya Pradesh will be the first state I will visit. I am grateful. I am grateful to Subhraji and Vivek so that they could catalyze it. When they walked into my office, I did not take, sir, even a second, because शिवराज जी का चेहरा मेरे सामने एकदम आ गया और शिवराज जी सॉफ्ट हैं पर अंदर से बहुत सख्त हैं। ये अपनी बात भूलते नहीं हैं। मैंने वादा कर लिया और कहीं और चला जाऊंगा, ये बात वो कभी नहीं कहेंगे, पर मुझे हमेशा डर लगता रहेगा कि पता नहीं कब कह देंगे। तो ये मौका सुब्राजी और विवेक ने आपसे छीन लिया है। आई एम श्योर विवेक विल बी फेयर टू यू इन फ्यूचर। Once a lawyer, always a lawyer, so I am gratified to the legal fraternity in particular for being here in such a large number and outside, if I believe Vivek. Because Vivek has high credibility except that he is a member of Rajya Sabha. So that he along with Kartikeya and Raji Shukla will have to demonstrate, and I will report to the people on the dais any transgressions taking place. Thank you so much. I am grateful. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency, for that motivating inaugural address. And now, ladies and gentlemen, may I request the Vijay Chaudhary, Chairman, MP State Bar Council, to kindly propose the vote.
महामहिम उपराष्ट्रपति महोदय और विधि के महान विद्वान माननीय जगदीप धनखड़ जी,
ऑनरेबल गवर्नर ऑफ मध्य प्रदेश माननीय मंगू भाई पटेल जी, हमारे सबके लाडले और यशस्वी मुख्यमंत्री और ऐसे मुख्यमंत्री जिनने वकीलों को 2012 में वकील पंचायत में बहुत कुछ दिया है, ऐसे माननीय शिवराज सिंह जी जिनको आज मैंने 8 मांगों का पत्र और दे दिया, ऐसे माननीय शिवराज सिंह जी। हमारे मध्य प्रदेश के दामाद और यहाँ बिराजी हमारी बहन माननीय कौल साहब, श्रीमती कौल साहब, जज सुप्रीम कोर्ट ऑफ इंडिया, हमारे प्रदेश के गौरव और जिनसे हम बात करने को लालायत रहते हैं हमेशा, ऐसे जेके बोलते हैं इनको, ऐसे जस्टिस जेके महेश्वरी जी, मैडम महेश्वरी जी, हमारे सबके बढ़िया मुस्कुराने वाले चीफ जस्टिस खूब काम करवाते हैं, आधा घंटा हाई कोर्ट में भी काम बढ़ा दिया और खूब काम करते हैं और सबसे हंस के बात करते हैं, खुश रहते हैं हमेशा। ऐसे हमारे चीफ जस्टिस रवि मालिमत जी और उनकी धर्मपत्नी जो यहाँ विराजमान है, जिनके कारण वो खुश रहते हैं, मैडम चीफ जस्टिस। मध्य प्रदेश के एकमात्र नेता जिसे हर वर्ग का लोग, कांग्रेस, बीजेपी, एसएसपी सब चाहते हैं, ऐसे विवेक तनखा जी। हर वकील को जो है विराजमान है, विवेक तनखा की फोटो अपने ऑफिस में लगाना चाहिए। उसका कारण सुनिए, कल पिता के लिए जो कार्यक्रम किया वो मैं रात भर नहीं भूल पाया, और आज अपने गुरु के लिए जो कार्यक्रम हो रहा है, और ऐसे लाजवाब लोग धनखड़ जैसे विराजमान हैं, कौल साहब जैसे विराजमान हैं, जेके जैसे लोग हैं, इनको हमने सुना, ये सब इनकी कृपा से। हर वकील को अपने पिता और अपने गुरु के लिए समर्पित रहना चाहिए, ऐसे विवेक तनखा जी और इनकी मैडम जिनकी कृपा से ये सब बात हुई है, और वरुण जी, श्री शशांक शेखर जिन्होंने इस कार्यक्रम की पूरी रेखा दी है, रूपरेखा दी है, और यहाँ विराजमान श्री राजीव शुक्ला जी, मध्य प्रदेश बीजेपी के चेयरमैन बीडी शर्मा जी, मध्य प्रदेश के मंत्री गोपाल भार्गव जी, पूर्व मंत्री तरुण भनोत जी, हाई कोर्ट के वर्तमान मुख्य न्यायाधिपति, अन्य स्टेट्स के हाई कोर्ट जजेज, एडवोकेट जनरल मध्य प्रदेश, एमपी एमएलएच, महापौर जी जबलपुर, उपराष्ट्रपति जी के बेटी और दामाद जी श्री वाजपेयी जी, सुब्रा वर्मा जी, अशोक गुप्ता जी, यहाँ विराजमान हमारे सबके मुकुट और पूर्व मेंबर ऑफ पार्लियामेंट और बार काउंसिल के मेंबर हमारे बड़े भाई रामेश्वर निखरा जी, बार काउंसिल के वाइस चेयरमैन सैनी जी, ग्वालियर बार के हाईकोर्ट बार के पूर्व प्रेसिडेंट और वर्तमान बार काउंसिल के मेंबर प्रेम सिंह भदौरिया जी, श्री मनीष तिवारी जी, हाईकोर्ट बार के पूर्व सेक्रेटरी और वर्तमान में बार काउंसिल के मेंबर श्री मनीष दत्त जी, बार काउंसिल के पूर्व कोषाध्यक्ष और वर्तमान मेंबर श्री राधेलाल गुप्ता जी, श्री शैलेंद्र वर्मा जी, श्री असदुल्ला उस्मानी जी, सारे सीनियर एडवोकेट्स, NLOIU के डायरेक्टर, सभी न्यायाधीशगण, समस्त एडवोकेट, सभी विभाग के प्रशासनिक अधिकारी, भोपाल से पधारे श्री अजय गुप्ता जी, श्री दीपेश जोशी जी, श्री हरीश मेहता जी, NGT के सेक्रेटरी श्री विवेक चौधरी जी, एक्स DIG श्री पुरी, और सभी ऐसे लोग मीडिया और उसके प्रभारी जिनके मैं नाम लेना, सारे MP MLA जिनके नाम लेना मैं भूल गया हूँ, समय की पॉसिटी है। आप यहाँ पधारे, आपका वंदन, अभिनंदन। आप विवेक तनखा को चाहते हैं, और हमारे स्टूडेंट जिनका मैं नाम लेना भूल गया, आपको भी बहुत बहुत आभार प्रदर्शन। आपने विवेक तनखा जी के इस दोनों उत्सवों में पूरी शिरकत की, पूरा सीखा, अपने पिता और गुरु को याद रखिए। आप सबको बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद। आपके जीवन में ऐसे ही कार्यक्रम आए, ऐसे ही आप राष्ट्रपति जी को सुनते रहें। सो काइंड ऑफ यू। जय हिंद। थैंक यू वेरी मच।
Ladies and gentlemen, kindly rise for the national anthem. Thank you. I would now request everybody to kindly remain seated till the time the Honorable Vice President departs. I would request everybody to kindly remain seated till the time the Honorable Vice President departs. कृपया आप सभी अपने स्थान पर ही
बहुत स्वागत है। इस कार्यक्रम का नाम है नामीबिया से भारत पहुंचे चीते। जी हां, 8 चीते अब पहुंच चुके हैं हिंदुस्तान की सरजमी पर और हम आपको इस कार्यक्रम में लगातार उन तमाम पहलुओं पर विस्तार से आगे बताएंगे कि क्यों इस चीता जो प्रोजेक्ट चीता उसकी ज़रूरत पड़ी, इस तरह से यहाँ पे जो लैंडस्केप है चीते के लिए वो किस तरह से अनुकूल है, क्या है वो तमाम चीज़ें जिसके लिए ये सारी चीज़ें की जा रही हैं। हम इन तमाम विषयों पर आगे आपसे बातचीत करेंगे, लेकिन हम शुरुआत करें इस खबर के साथ कि नामीबिया से चीतों को लेकर विशेष चार्टर्ड कार्गो उड़ान मध्य प्रदेश के ग्वालियर में भारतीय वायुसेना स्टेशन पर अब से कुछ देर पहले पहुंच गया है। तो आप इन तस्वीरों में देख सकते हैं ये वही केस हैं जिनमें कि 8 नामीबियाई चीते इसके अंदर हैं और अब से कुछ ही देर के बाद आप उन तस्वीरों में देखेंगे कि इन चीतों को मध्य प्रदेश के कूनो नेशनल पार्क में खुद प्रधानमंत्री इन्हें छोड़ने का काम करेंगे। तो ये बहुत ही महत्वपूर्ण तस्वीरें और ये बहुत ही एक्सक्लूसिव तस्वीरें हैं, डीडी न्यूज़ के ज़रिए आप देख सकते हैं। नामीबिया से इन तमाम चीतों को भारत इंटर कॉन्टिनेंटल एक तरह से कहा जाए इनको लाया गया है। एक महाद्वीप से दूसरे महाद्वीप, अफ्रीका महाद्वीप से एशिया महाद्वीप लाया गया है एक विशेष कार्गो विमान के ज़रिए। आप इन तस्वीरों में देखिए एक एक करके उन तमाम जो बक्से हैं, विशेष रूप से बने ये बक्से जिनमें मौजूद हैं 8 नामीबियाई तेज तर्रार चीते और इन चीतों को विशेष विमान के ज़रिए ग्वालियर लाया गया। और इन चीतों को लेकर जो विशेष चार्टर्ड कार्गो विमान ग्वालियर उतरा है उसी विमान में हमारे सहयोगी तापस भट्टाचार्य मौजूद थे। उनकी ये खास रिपोर्ट देखिए।
नामीबिया से आए हमारे दोस्त चीताओं को सलाम करो। जी हाँ, ये चीता जो 8 चीता हम लेके आए हैं नामीबिया से वो भारत में आ चुके हैं। हम इस वक्त ग्वालियर एयरपोर्ट पे लैंड कर चुके हैं इस बोइंग 747-400 की स्पेशल फ्लाइट में और यहाँ पे आप देख सकते हैं ये सारे प्लेट लगे हुए हैं, इनमें चीता है और जैसे मैंने वादा किया था कि पल पल की जानकारी आपको देते रहेंगे, तो ये इस वक्त की जानकारी है। बड़ी खबर है कि ये 8 चीता भारत में आ चुके हैं। अब यहाँ से इन क्रेट्स में इनको एक चॉपर में लेके कूनो पालपुर नेशनल पार्क में लेके जाया जाएगा, जहाँ पे 1 महीने का उनका क्वारंटाइन रहेगा और उसके बाद इनको वाइल्ड में छोड़ दिया जाएगा। दूसरी अहम बात है कि ये बहुत ही ऐतिहासिक दिन है, क्योंकि आज प्रधानमंत्री नरेंद्र मोदी जी का जन्मदिन भी है और आज के ही दिन प्रधानमंत्री नरेंद्र मोदी इन चीताओं को देश को समर्पण करेंगे। एक तरह से वाइल्ड में इनको लेके आया जाएगा। तो 7 दशक बाद देश में एक बार फिर चीता दौड़ेगा। कैमरा पर्सन सौरभ शुक्ला के साथ मैं तापस भट्टाचार्य, ऑन बोर्ड 747 बोइंग ग्वालियर से।
और चीता संरक्षण कोष में संरक्षण जीव विज्ञानी एली वॉकर ने ग्वालियर हवाई अड्डे पर चीता के हेल्थ के बारे में, उसके स्वास्थ्य के बारे में जानकारी दी।
So they had a very great flight, very calm, relaxed. We had no issues throughout the entire flight. And now we're here on the ground in India. First time in over 70 years that there's been cheetahs here in India. So it's extremely exciting.
और नामीबिया से आए 8 चीतों को ग्वालियर से एक विशेष हेलीकॉप्टर से कूनो नेशनल पार्क पहुंचा दिया गया है। तो ये एक्सक्लूसिव तस्वीरें एक विशेष हेलीकॉप्टर के जरिए उन तमाम चीतों को कूनो नेशनल पार्क पहुंचा दिया गया है और ये उसी की तस्वीरें आप इस वक्त अपनी टीवी स्क्रीन पे देख पा रहे हैं। मध्य प्रदेश में कूनो नेशनल पार्क और जिस विशेष विमान के जरिए इन 8 चीतों को नामीबिया से भारत लाया गया वो ग्वालियर में लैंड किया और ग्वालियर में लैंड करने के बाद उन तमाम चीतों को इस विशेष हेलीकॉप्टर के जरिए कूनो नेशनल पार्क